The time is precisely 8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by J. Yogaraj and read by Ramesh Perez. The headlines. Minister Ali Sabri emphasizes the importance of implementing a long-term solution and focused on a long-term goal for the present economic crisis. 2024 A-level exam will not be postponed, says the Education Ministry. Minister Bandura Gunawardena says expressway workers on strike removed ticketing machines. State Minister Ranjit Sembalapitiya says strict legal action should be taken against the custom officers who are involved in drug trafficking. Many rivers are overflowing due to the prevailing inclement weather conditions. The highest rainfall recorded in Badula district during the last 24 hours. Over 8.5 billion rupees transferred for payments to Aswasama beneficiaries. Parliament takes vote on allocation of expenditure heads for ex-presidents. And in news overseas, Israel and Hamas agree to pursue in-fighting hostage release. In sports, ICC World Cup winners return home. Now the local news in detail. Many rivers are overflowing due to the prevailing inclement weather conditions. The residents residing near Pategama, Hatugada and Deyandara areas are requested to be alert and vigilant during the next 24 hours. The irrigation engineer of Virakete Irrigation Department, Gayan Mathuguda, said many sluice gates are open from the reservoirs located near Walasmulla, Beliatta and Tangol areas. The main road leading from Ambilipitia, Godavela across Urubokka is blocked due to landslide, earth mound and stone falling. 2,930 people from 9 districts are affected due to the prevailing inclement weather conditions. The highest rainfall recorded in Badula district during the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, the Department of Irrigation has issued an amber flood warning of the river basin of Attanagalu Oya for 24 hours. This decision has been made due to the prevailing adverse weather conditions in the region. While issuing the flood warning, Irrigation Hydrology Director SPC Sugiswara said people and motorists are requested to pay high attention to these warnings. Disaster management authorities, too, are requested to take adequate precautions in this regard. The 2024 Advanced Level Examination will not be postponed, the Ministry of Education says. One of the fundamental rights petitions filed seeking the postponement of the 2024 Advanced Level Examination has been dismissed by the Supreme Court today, while the other was withdrawn by the petitioners. As such, the 2023 A-Level exam will be held as scheduled from January 4th to the 31st, the ministry said further. State Minister of Finance Shahan Semasinghe revealed that over 8.5 billion rupees in total have been transferred to the respective banks to be credited to the accounts of Aswasama beneficiaries for the month of September. Accordingly, a total of 8,571 million rupees has been transferred to the relevant bank accounts, the State Minister said, adding that the payments will be credited to the accounts of 1,377,000 beneficiaries' families from tomorrow onwards. Meanwhile, speaking with regards to the appeals and objections filed, Semasinghe noted that upon the completion of the reviewing process of the appeals, those deemed eligible too will receive the Aswasama benefits effective from July. Minister of Transport and Highways Bandura Gunawardena has slammed the token strike launched by the expressway employees this morning as a deliberate attempt at incurring a loss to the government. Quote, "This is not a trade union action, but a subversive move," unquote, the lawmaker said, addressing the parliamentary session earlier today. The All-Island Expressway Workers Union resorted to a token strike at 7 a.m. today by calling in sick. The trade union action is based on 3 key issues: the alleged attempts by the Finance Ministry and the Road Development Authority to privatize the country's expressway network, delayed payments for unused sick leave for the year 2022 and the delayed approval for the system for optimized recruitment, which deferred the grade-to-grade promotions of all employees. Gunawardena claimed that employees on strike have taken the ticketing machines with them in a bid to disrupt the expressway operations. Resorting to such moves against the backdrop of an economic crisis is a serious crime, he said, while commending the efforts of the security forces to keep expressway operation uninterrupted amidst the trade union action. Soon after the expressway employees launched their token strike, Triforces and police personnel were dispatched to ensure the security and issue of tickets. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news. The leader of the National People's Power, Anura Kumara Desanayake, demanded a vote in Parliament this evening, protesting the allocation of expenditure heads for former presidents in the 2024 budget. However, a total of 62 MPs voted in favour of the proposal while only 3 voted against it. NPP parliamentarians Anura Kumara Desanayake, Vijitha Herath and Harini Amarasuriya were the only MPs to vote against when the division was called. Accordingly, the Speaker Mahinda Yapa informed the House that heading number 1 was passed with amendments during the committee stage. Minister Ali Sabri emphasized the importance of implementing a long-term solution and focused on a long-term goal for the present economic crisis. The minister also said that the public welfare programs should continue while the taxes should also be collected on time. The taxpayers cannot evade paying their dues. A special work plan should be implemented to expedite this process. The minister made these remarks at a media conference held at the Presidential Media Centre this morning. And that concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
Moving on to the main news story. State Minister Ranjit Siambalapitiya said strict legal action should be taken against the custom officers who are involved in drug trafficking. However, the Customs Department has carried many raids to nab the drug traffickers. The State Minister made these remarks to the media after attending a function at Battulu Kohpitiya. An effective work plan is necessary to prevent the drug trafficking, the State Minister added. Digital and modern technologies will be used in future to control this menace, the State Minister added. And that came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
In Torchlight, the number of dengue cases in several areas of the Western Province and in the Kandy district of the Central Province has increased. The National Dengue Control Unit says most of the breeding grounds for mosquitoes have been identified around schools and religious places in many areas. Director of the National Dengue Control Unit, Dr. Nalin Ari Ratna, said 73,500 dengue cases have been reported in Sri Lanka so far this year. And that came to you in Watchlight. Next, we look at the world news. And first, the headlines. Israel and Hamas agree to pause infighting hostage release. South Korea says North Korea's spy satellite likely entered into planned orbit. Myanmar's pro-military groups stage protest against China. Now the world news in detail. Qatar has announced that Israel and Hamas agreed to a 4-day pause in fighting in exchange for the release of 50 hostages held in the Gaza Strip. The Qatari government, which mediated the deal, said on Wednesday that the starting time of the pause would be announced within the next 24 hours. It also said the agreement includes the release of some Palestinian women and children detained in Israeli prisons in return for the hostages who will be freed by Hamas. South Korea says the satellite launched by North Korea on Tuesday night appeared to have entered into planned orbit. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said on Wednesday evening that they reached the assessment after comprehensively analyzing its path and other factors. This comes after North Korea's announcement of a successful launch of the Milyongong-1 military reconnaissance satellite. Pro-military groups in Myanmar have staged a demonstration against China. They claim that Beijing has been supporting anti-junta forces. This comes as fighting between the junta troops and ethnic minority militants continue to escalate. Local media outlets in Myanmar says dozens of people gathered in front of the Chinese embassy in Yangon on Sunday. The protesters also accused China of interfering in Myanmar's internal affairs. Back to the headlines of the world news. Israel-Hamas agree to pause in fighting, hostage release. South Korea says North Korea's spy satellite likely entered into planned orbit. And Myanmar pro-military groups stage protest against China. And that concludes World News.
Development News.
In developer news, Sri Lanka attracted 100,000 arrivals up to November 21, surpassing total arrival figures of 2022 October, which was 59,759, and November 91,961. The total number of arrivals for the entire year 2023 passed the 1,225,000 mark, and Sri Lanka is expected to pass the 1.55 million arrival mark for 2023. Meanwhile, top travel agents and tour operators from the Indian subcontinent, the Far East, Europe and Middle East and Australia have started arriving in Sri Lanka ahead of the hotly anticipated Sri Lankan Airlines Global Sales Conference, which will take place from November 22nd to the 24th in Hambantota. Close to 200 foreign travel trade officials are expected to participate in the event and will also get to tour the island before the conference. And that came to you in development news.
Moving on with sports news.
On to sports news, ICC World Cup winning Australian teammates arrive in Melbourne after a spectacular win against Team India. Australia won comfortably by 6 wickets against India in the Cricket World Cup 2023 final played on Sunday at Ahmedabad Cricket Grounds. And that was sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Moving on to business news, RM Parks Incorporated, California-based U.S. fuel distribution company, signed an agreement with the BOI with an investment of $100 million. The company will serve the Sri Lankan petroleum sector in collaboration with Shell plc. Shell plc operates as an energy and petrochemical company in Europe, Asia, Oceania, Africa and the United States and the rest of the Americas. The company operates through integrated gas, upstream marketing, chemicals and products, and renewables and energy solution segments.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Moving on to economic news, Sri Lanka is expected to receive the second tranche of the IMF disbursement of $330 million next month, said Secretary to the Treasury Mahinda Siriwardana, and the Organisation of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka organised Navigating Economic Recovery, Sri Lanka's Fiscal Policy, Investment Strategies and Future event on Monday. The first review of the program was concluded in October 2023, and both parties reached a staff-level agreement on October 19, 2023, which will result in releasing the second tranche of the program amounting to around $330 million next month. In addition to receiving $330 million, it is a signal provided to the world that Sri Lanka's macroeconomic reforms remain on track. And that was economic news.
Weather report.
And finally, moving on to the weather report. The Met Department says showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the most provinces of the island in the afternoon tomorrow. Fairly heavy showers, about 75 millimeters, are likely at some places in central, Sabaragamuwa, Uva, southern, western and northwestern provinces. Showers may occur at some places in the western provinces and in Puttlam district during the morning too. The general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damage caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. And that was the weather report. Now to conclude this news broadcast, back to the headlines. Minister Ali Sabri emphasizes the importance of implementing a long-term solution and focused on a long-term goal for the present economic crisis. 2024 A-level exam will not be postponed, says the Education Ministry. Minister Bandula Gunawardena says expressway workers on strike remove ticketing machines. State Minister Ranjit Sinhala says strict legal action should be taken against the customs officers who are involved in drug trafficking. Many rivers are overflowing due to the prevailing inclement weather conditions. The highest rainfall recorded in Badulla district during the last 24 hours. Over 8.5 billion rupees transferred for payments to Aswesima beneficiaries. Parliament takes vote on allocation of expenditure heads for ex-presidents. And in news overseas, Israel and Hamas agree to pause in fighting. Hostages release. In sports, ICC World Cup winners return home. And with that, we conclude this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.